My name is Margaret Thornton, but most people call me Maggie. I'm 55 years old, and for 29 years, I thought I knew my life's script. I was the devoted wife to Daniel Reed, a venture capitalist in Richmond, Virginia, and the proud mother of our daughter Emma, who just graduated from UVA Law School. I've spent my career as a corporate accountant, keeping our family's finances steady, while Daniel chased high-stakes startup deals. But on the night of Emma's graduation celebration, in a glittering Richmond restaurant called the Jefferson's Garden Room, my carefully crafted world unraveled. I stood there, in a sapphire dress I'd chosen to honor Emma's milestone, as Daniel raised his champagne glass. 60 guests, friends, family, his business partners, watched, expecting a toast to our daughter's achievement. Instead, Daniel turned to me, his eyes cold, and said, "Maggie, I'm done. I'm starting over without you." The words hung like smoke in the air. Conversations stopped. Glasses froze mid-clink. Emma, radiant in her black gown, stared at her father, her face paling. Every eye in the room darted between us, waiting for me to collapse, to scream, to storm out in tears. Instead, I smiled, my voice calm as a still lake. "To your new chapter, Daniel. Cheers to clarity." The room gasped. Emma's hand found mine under the table, her grip tight. From the corner of my eye, I saw Kristen Vance, Daniel's 38-year-old startup consultant, shift uneasily at a table with colleagues I'd once called friends. Kristen, with her sleek brunette bob and sharp blazer, had been a regular at our holiday parties. She'd even emailed me last year for tax advice. Now, I saw the guilt in her fidgeting hands. I reached into my purse and pulled out a crimson envelope, sliding it across to Daniel's plate. "What's this?" he asked, his confident smirk wavering. "A little something for later," I said, my tone even. I turned to Emma, brushing her cheek. "Sweetheart, this night is yours. I'm so proud of you." Then I stood, smoothed my dress, and addressed the stunned guests. "Please, enjoy your dinner. Have a lovely evening." I walked out, my head high, 60 pairs of eyes trailing me. The restaurant's oak doors closed behind me, muffling the whispers that erupted. Richmond's humid June air hit me, but it felt like a release. For the first time in decades, I was free. I heard the door slam open behind me. Daniel's voice, no longer smooth, cracked with panic. "Maggie, what's in this envelope? What are you doing?" I kept walking toward my car, a faint smile on my lips. That crimson envelope held the opening move of a plan I'd been building for months. A plan Daniel never saw coming. I've always been the steady one in our marriage. While Daniel poured money into risky tech startups, I balanced our books, saved for Emma's education, and worked late nights at Riverfront Accounting to cover his losses. My dream of opening a financial literacy nonprofit for single parents? Always deferred. After Emma's law school, I'd say. After Daniel's next deal. But 5 months ago, I noticed irregularities in our joint accounts. Small transfers to a crypto wallet I didn't recognize. Daniel had been preaching austerity, saying we needed to secure our future. Yet he was buying luxury watches and booking trips to the Outer Banks. As an accountant, I know anomalies aren't accidents. I could have confronted him, but intuition told me to wait. I started investigating quietly, using my expertise to trace the digital trail. The crypto wallet, tied to Daniel's email, funded purchases I hadn't approved. A $5,000 necklace, dinners at Maison Richmond, a down payment on a loft in Shockoe Bottom. Then I found his laptop, left open during one of his late-night meetings. His messages with Kristen were a gut punch. "After Emma's grad, I'll tell Maggie it's over," he wrote. "Public's best. She won't react in front of people." Kristen replied, "She doesn't know about the crypto? You're sure?" Daniel's words cut deepest. "Maggie's too loyal. She trusts me completely." My hands shook, but I didn't cry. I got strategic. I consulted my friend Laura, a divorce attorney, at a quiet diner in Carytown. "You need proof," she said, "and leverage." I pulled bank records, screenshot texts, and traced the crypto transactions. Our prenup, signed 29 years ago when my family's savings outshone Daniel's fledgling career, had a fidelity clause. Infidelity voids his claim to joint assets. He'd pushed for the prenup to protect his future. Now, it was my shield. Laura reviewed my evidence, nodding. Maggie, this is ironclad. The crypto transfers breach financial transparency. With the affair, the prenup's your weapon. I timed my move carefully. Daniel planned to announce our split after Emma's graduation to avoid drama. I'd let him think he was in control, then strike first. I filed divorce papers discreetly, keeping them sealed until that morning. The crimson envelope held those papers, a summary of his crypto dealings, and a note about the prenup, a reminder that his betrayal would cost him everything. In the parking lot, Daniel caught up, waving the envelope. Maggie, talk to me. This is insane. I turned, my voice steady. You chose your path, Daniel. I'm choosing mine. His face flushed, his charm crumbling. You're overreacting, he shouted. Am I? I stepped closer. Enjoy your night. You'll need the rest. I drove off, leaving him in the lot, the envelope trembling in his hand. I headed to our home, a Georgian-style house in Richmond's West End, bought with my inheritance 16 years ago. Inside, everything felt familiar, yet hollow. The framed photos of Emma's debate trophies, the mahogany bookshelf from my parents, the armchair where Daniel and I once planned our retirement. It was all a facade now. Upstairs, I opened Daniel's closet. His suitcases were packed, hidden behind his golf clubs. So predictable. My phone buzzed with texts. Emma, Daniel's sister Rachel, friends from the restaurant. I replied only to Emma. I'm okay, sweetheart, focus on your night. We'll talk soon, I love you. I'd kept this from her for months, not wanting to taint her law school victory. She'd be upset I hid it, but I knew she'd understand. Emma's got my logic and Daniel's persuasion, a mix that earned her top honors. Hours later, Daniel stormed into the house, the front door slamming. Maggie, he shouted, his voice echoing. What's this envelope about? He waved the crimson papers, his face red with anger. I was in the living room, reviewing spreadsheets on my laptop, calm as ever. Divorce papers on Emma's graduation day, he demanded. Perfect timing, I said, closing my laptop. You wanted a public exit. I just made it official. He paced, his composure unraveling. You had no right. I stood, meeting his gaze. I had every right, Daniel, just like you had every right to plan your new life with Kristen. He tried a new angle, his voice smug. The prenup's expired. Any lawyer will say so. I smiled. Section 16 says the fidelity clause lasts the entire marriage. You might have missed that. His face paled. The prenup he'd insisted on, back when he was a nobody, now protected my assets. The house, our investments, everything he thought he'd split with Kristen. You can't do this, he said, slumping onto the sofa. The envelope crumpled. You did this, I replied. You hid money in crypto. You planned to humiliate me. You chose Kristen. His phone buzzed. Kristen, no doubt, waiting for him. He ignored it, his bravado gone. We built this life together, Maggie. Doesn't that mean anything? I studied him. The man I'd loved for nearly 3 decades, who'd held my hand through Emma's surgeries. Who'd surprised me with a Blue Ridge weekend for our 20th anniversary. When did he change? Or had I been too loyal to see him clearly? It meant everything, I said. That's why your betrayal hurts so much. He leaned forward, desperation in his eyes. I messed up. We can fix this. I shook my head. This wasn't a slip, Daniel. It was a year-long scheme. I opened my phone and played a recording from our home office. His voice. After the grad, I'll tell Maggie it's done. Public's safer. She won't react. Kristen. And the crypto. She's clueless? Daniel. Maggie trusts me. Always will. His face drained of color. You recorded us, he stammered. Not illegally, I said. In Virginia. One party's consent is enough in our home. I only recorded your plans to deceive me. He stood, pacing. I need to call my lawyer. I nodded. Good idea. I'm staying at Rachel's tonight. I grabbed my overnight bag, packed earlier. You have until tomorrow to move out. Then the locks change. As I headed for the door, he called out, desperation in his voice. What about Emma? Have you thought about her? I paused, anger breaking through. Don't use our daughter as a shield, Daniel. You weren't thinking of her when you planned your new life with Kristen. His phone buzzed again. He glanced at it, groaning. Problem? I asked. Kristen's at the loft already. She moved in. I smiled. The loft you leased together. The application was flagged for fraud. I handled the call when the agent rang our home line. I walked out, leaving him to face the first cracks in his perfect plan. Rachel's townhouse in Church Hill was my refuge, and as I drove, I felt a weight lift. This wasn't just revenge, it was my first step toward freedom. As I drove through Richmond's quiet streets to Rachel's townhouse in Church Hill, the city's twinkling lights felt like a promise of something new. Daniel's betrayal had shattered the life I'd built for 29 years, but that crimson envelope, packed with divorce papers, evidence of his crypto fraud, and a reminder of our prenup's fidelity clause, was my first step toward reclaiming control. Rachel, Daniel's sister, welcomed me with a warm hug, her cozy living room smelling of lavender and old books. She's a history professor at VCU, fiercely independent, and one of the few people I trusted completely. Emma called, Rachel said, pouring me a glass of Merlot. She's on her way. Are you okay, Maggie? I nodded, sinking into her velvet sofa. Better than I expected. Daniel thought he could blindside me, but he's the one who's rattled now. Rachel's eyes sparkled with amusement. That envelope, what was in it? I explained. The divorce filing, screenshots of his hidden crypto transactions, and the prenup that would strip him of our home and investments. Rachel laughed, shaking her head. He always underestimated you. Big mistake. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma. I'm coming to Aunt Rachel's. I can't believe Dad. I replied, I'm okay, sweetheart. Take your time. I love you. Keeping Daniel's affair and financial gains from Emma had been hard, but I wanted her graduation to shine. Now, the truth was out, and I dreaded her pain. Rachel handed me the wine. Daniel called me, panicked, said you're ruining everything. He's spinning it like he's the victim. I smirked. Let him spin. The numbers don't lie. For months, I'd tracked Daniel's secret crypto wallet, funded with $15,000 in transfers from our joint accounts. He'd used it for lavish gifts to Kristen. A $6,000 bracelet, weekends at the Greenbrier, a deposit on a Shockoe bottom loft. His texts with her, uncovered on his laptop, revealed their plan to start over after Emma's graduation, leaving me humiliated. But I wasn't the trusting wife he thought. As an accountant, I'd spent 25 years at Riverfront Accounting spotting fraud. Daniel's moves were sloppy, and I was ready. Emma arrived 20 minutes later, still in her graduation gown, her makeup streaked from tears. She fell into my arms, sobbing. Why didn't you tell me, Mom? Her voice was muffled against my shoulder. I didn't want to ruin your moment, I said, stroking her hair. You worked so hard for this. She pulled back, her eyes fierce. Dad ruined it anyway. He hugged me this morning, said he was proud, and the whole time he was planning this. I led her to the sofa, where Rachel poured her a glass of water. I knew something was off, Emma said. He was always on his phone, dodging questions. I thought it was work stress. I took a deep breath and told her everything, how I'd found the crypto transfers 5 months ago, traced them to Daniel's secret account, and uncovered his texts with Kristen. He's been moving money for a year, I said, planning a new life with her, thinking I'd never notice. Emma's face hardened. He told me we couldn't afford my bar exam prep because money was tight. I worked nights at a coffee shop to cover it. Rachel shook her head. Your father's always been good at selling dreams, not living them. I showed them a text from my attorney, Laura. Emergency filing approved, joint accounts frozen. Daniel's crypto wallet is under review, hearing in 3 days. Emma's eyes lit up. Good, he deserves it. Her loyalty warmed me, but I stayed grounded. He's still your father, Emma. Your relationship with him is yours to navigate. She shook her head. Not right now. I can't even look at him. Rachel sipped her wine. You know, I saw Daniel with Kristen last Thanksgiving at a bar in the Fan. I confronted him, told him to end it. He swore it was a fling, that he'd stop. When he didn't, I tipped you off about the accounts, Maggie. I nodded, remembering her subtle hint months ago to check the books. It was the spark that started my investigation. Daniel never suspected his own sister would side with me. The doorbell rang, interrupting us. Rachel returned, her face tense. It's Daniel and Kristen. My stomach tightened, but I stayed calm. They entered the living room, Daniel's face a mix of anger and desperation, Kristen trailing behind, her confidence shaken. Her navy blazer looked out of place in Rachel's bohemian space, her hands twisting nervously. Daniel waved the crimson envelope. Maggie, this is madness. Unfreeze the accounts. We can talk like adults. Emma stood, stepping in front of me, her lawyer's poise kicking in. You don't get to demand anything. You announced you're leaving Mom in front of everyone at my graduation. Daniel flinched, as if just noticing Emma. This isn't about you, Emma, she laughed bitterly. You blew up our family on my day, and it's not about me? You were stealing from us while I worked to pay for my books because we said we were broke. Kristen touched Daniel's arm. Dan, maybe we should go. He shook her off. No, I'm not leaving until Maggie stops this. I stayed seated, my voice steady. The accounts stay frozen until the hearing in 3 days. The judge will decide what's fair. Daniel sputtered. 3 days? What am I supposed to do? I tilted my head. Your crypto wallet should cover you. The one you've been hiding money in for a year. Kristen's eyes widened. Crypto wallet? How much is in it? Daniel ignored her, but the crack in their united front was clear. I pressed on. You might also check on that loft lease. The application was flagged for irregularities. I handled the call when the agent rang our home line. Daniel's face paled. You what? Rachel crossed her arms. You made this mess, Daniel. Maggie's just cleaning it up. Emma turned to Kristen. Did you know he'd announce it like that in front of everyone? Kristen looked down. I thought he'd tell your mom privately. The public thing, it surprised me too. Daniel shot her a betrayed glance, and I almost laughed. Their perfect plan was crumbling. Rachel's voice was firm. You've upset Emma enough. Leave. Daniel tried one last plea. Emma, you get it, right? Relationships change, people drift apart. Emma's face turned to stone. What I get is that you're a coward who couldn't give Mom the respect of a private talk. What I get is you hid money, while I struggled because you lied about our finances. The silence was heavy. Daniel turned to go, Kristen trailing him. At the door, he looked back at me. This isn't over, Maggie. I'll fight this. I met his gaze. You're welcome to try. After they left, Emma collapsed beside me, tears streaming. I've never spoken to Dad like that. I wrapped my arm around her. Sometimes standing up for what's right hurts. Rachel raised her wine glass. To new chapters. I nodded, feeling the truth of it. This wasn't the end, it was a beginning. The next morning, I woke to a flurry of notifications. Daniel had taken to social media, posting a cryptic rant on X about betrayal and unfair attacks, painting himself as the victim. Friends texted me, some supportive, others fishing for gossip. I stayed silent, letting the truth work its magic. Laura called with an update. The crypto wallet was under scrutiny for potential tax evasion, a twist I hadn't anticipated but welcomed. Daniel's sloppy financial moves were catching up to him faster than I'd planned. I spent the day at Rachel's reviewing my evidence, bank records, texts, crypto logs. I'd built a fortress of proof, and the prenup was my cornerstone. Daniel thought he could outmaneuver me, but he forgot I'd spent decades managing his chaos. His latest startup, a fintech app, was already faltering, and without my financial fixes, it was sinking fast. Emma joined me for lunch, still shaken, but resolute. I saw Dad's post on X, she said, stirring her coffee. He's telling people you're vindictive. I shrugged. Let him talk. The court will see the numbers. She smiled faintly. You're so calm, Mom. How? I leaned forward. Because I know the truth, and I've got the receipts. She laughed, a spark of her old self returning. You're a badass. I hadn't felt like one before, but her words lit something in me. I wasn't just fighting for assets. I was fighting for myself. Rachel joined us, her phone buzzing. You won't believe this, she said. Kristen just posted on X, hinting she's rethinking partnerships. Sounds like she's pulling away from Daniel. I raised an eyebrow. Already? That was quick. Rachel grinned. She thought he was a big shot with endless money. Now she's seeing the real Daniel. That evening, Laura sent another update. The judge had flagged Daniel's crypto wallet for a deeper audit, suspecting he'd funneled client funds, not just ours. This was a new twist, one that could land him in legal trouble beyond our divorce. I hadn't planned for that, but it felt like justice. Daniel's empire of lies was collapsing, and I was just getting started. As I sat in Rachel's guest room, reviewing my next steps, I realized this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about rebuilding. Maggie Thornton, not just Daniel's wife or Emma's mom, but a woman who'd been underestimated for too long. The hearing in 2 days would be the next battle, and I was ready. The morning of the preliminary hearing dawned gray and rainy. Richmond's skyline blurred through the mist. I sat in a small courtroom, my attorney Laura by my side, her briefcase stuffed with the evidence I'd meticulously gathered. Crypto logs, bank records, Daniel's texts with Kristen. Daniel arrived, his suit rumpled, his new lawyer, a young corporate attorney clearly out of his depth, shuffling papers nervously. For 29 years, I'd been Maggie Thornton, the steady accountant who propped up Daniel's risky venture capital dreams while deferring my own. Now, as the judge, a sharp-eyed woman with a no-nonsense demeanor, reviewed our prenup, I felt a shift. Daniel's betrayal, announcing our split at Emma's graduation in front of 60 guests, had cracked my world open, but it also set me free. The judge's voice cut through my thoughts. The prenup is valid. Section 16's fidelity clause remains in effect, and the evidence of financial deception is compelling. She fixed Daniel's lawyer with a stern look. Do you contest this? The lawyer stammered. We believe the agreement lapsed, Your Honor. She read aloud. The clause applies for the duration of the marriage and any resulting proceedings. No expiration. Daniel whispered urgently to his lawyer, who looked increasingly panicked. The judge continued. The crypto transfers violate disclosure rules. Joint accounts remain frozen pending full discovery. The family home stays with Mrs. Thornton per the infidelity clause. Daniel's face flushed red. This is absurd, he muttered, loud enough for me to hear. The judge's glare silenced him. Mr. Reed, review the document you signed. Court reconvenes in 30 days. As we left the courtroom, Daniel caught up to me in the hallway, his charm replaced by desperation. Maggie, please. 29 years together. Doesn't that mean something? I turned, my voice calm but firm. It meant everything until you threw it away. I walked away, the rain-soaked courthouse steps slick under my heels. The weight of his choices was his to carry now. Back at Rachel's townhouse, I sipped coffee with Emma, who'd skipped her bar exam prep to be with me. You were so composed in there, Mom, she said, her eyes still red from the past day's turmoil. How do you do it? I smiled faintly. Numbers don't lie, Emma. Neither does the truth. My phone buzzed with texts from friends, some offering support, others prying for gossip. I kept my responses brief. Daniel and I are parting ways. Life moves on. On X, Daniel's posts grew more erratic, claiming I was vindictive and destroying our family. But the tide was turning. A local business blog reported his fintech startup was crumbling, with investors pulling out after the crypto audit raised red flags for tax evasion. The extra twist I hadn't planned? The audit uncovered Daniel had siphoned client funds, not just ours, into his secret wallet. His empire was imploding faster than I'd imagined. 2 weeks later, Rachel called, her voice laced with amusement. Kristen's gone. Moved out of Daniel's temporary apartment. I wasn't shocked. But the speed surprised me. Apparently, Rachel continued, she found out his wealth was smoke and mirrors. She's already posting photos with some hedge fund guy from Norfolk. I laughed, the sound foreign but freeing. Kristen had thought Daniel was her ticket to a glamorous life. But his lies caught up with him. A new twist hit the next day. Kristen, scorned by Daniel's empty promises, leaked internal emails from his startup to the press, exposing shady deals that accelerated his company's collapse. She'd played her own game, and I couldn't help but respect the move, even if her motives were selfish. Meanwhile, I was rebuilding. I'd opened a small office in Richmond's Arts District, launching Thornton Financial Empowerment, my nonprofit for single parents navigating financial crises. My first clients, 2 women facing divorces, came through word of mouth. Helping them untangle their finances felt like the work I was born to do. Unlike the corporate grind at Riverfront Accounting, Emma visited, her pride evident. "You're helping people when they're at their lowest, Mom," she said over dinner at Rachel's. "It's what I wish someone had done for me," I replied, feeling a spark of purpose I hadn't known in years. The final divorce hearing fell on what would have been our 30th anniversary, a poetic close to a chapter I'd once thought would last forever. Daniel arrived looking haggard, his startup now in receivership, his reputation in tatters. Kristen was long gone, and most of our mutual friends had distanced themselves, embarrassed by his public lies and the leaked emails. The judge upheld the prenup in full. I kept our West End home, my retirement accounts, and 70% of our joint investments, exactly as the fidelity clause stipulated. Daniel left with his personal belongings, his failing business, and what little remained in his crypto wallet after legal fees and IRS penalties. As we exited the courtroom, he approached me one last time, his voice low. "I screwed up, Maggie. Is there any chance we could try again?" I looked at him, the man who'd held my hand through Emma's childhood illnesses, who'd danced with me under the stars for our 25th anniversary. But that man was gone, replaced by someone who'd schemed for a year to leave me humiliated. "That door's closed," I said, gentle but firm. "I hope you find peace, Daniel." He nodded, and for the first time, I believed he meant it. "You deserve happiness, Maggie," he said, and walked away. 6 months later, Thornton Financial Empowerment was thriving. I'd moved to a larger office downtown, hired a part-time assistant, and built a client list of women rebuilding after divorces, job losses, or loss of a spouse. The work was fulfilling in a way I'd never known, getting me a purpose beyond being Daniel's wife or Emma's mom. Emma, now studying for the bar exam, visited often, her anger at Daniel softening but her loyalty to me fierce. "It's ironic," she said one weekend, sitting in my office surrounded by client files. "If Dad had been honest, he might have kept half of everything." I nodded. "Some people can't see past what they want in the moment." She grinned. "You're not just Mom anymore. You're Maggie Thornton, changing lives." Her words hit deep. The woman who'd once defined herself by her family had found a new identity: mentor, advocate, survivor. Richmond's skyline glowed as I locked up my office one evening, the James River reflecting the city's lights. The crimson envelope I'd handed Daniel at that restaurant hadn't just been my exit strategy. It was the key to a life I hadn't dared imagine. Daniel's betrayal had shattered my old self, but it revealed a stronger one. The prenup he'd insisted on to protect his dreams had secured mine instead. I'd protected my financial future, but more importantly, I'd reclaimed my voice. As I walked to my car, a text from Laura popped up. "IRS just charged Daniel with tax fraud. He's looking at fines and possible jail time." I shook my head, not surprised. His choices had built a house of cards, and it had finally collapsed. For me, this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reinvention. I was no longer the wife who smoothed over Daniel's chaos. I was Maggie Thornton, and my story was just beginning.